All right, James and Mary Beth, thank you for joining with me here today. So for those who are listening into this, if you could, state your names, where you're from, and what your farm operation looks like.
We're James and Mary Beth Richard. We are from Worcester, Ohio, and we have a small dairy farm, and we're starting a beef and pork operation.
Kids at home too, right?
Yeah, we have 3 children between the ages of 2 and 5.
Keep you busy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So before, I remember when James, our first initial phone call it was back in, I believe it was May. I was in the tractor. I remember at that time, and we were on the phone and we were discussing, things about where you were at right then and there and why Legacy Farmer, felt like it was a fit for you at that time. So explain to who's ever listening to this, at that moment, really what wasn't working inside of your life and business at that time that made you jump into Legacy Farmer?
Nothing was really working. I was burned out. I didn't have time to spend with my family. Didn't have a very good relationship with the landlord. Not a very good communication anyway. It wasn't like, but we just didn't really have a very, very clear vision of what we wanted to do and why.
Yeah.
We'd never heard of 4-4, but I think our 4-4 was just completely out of bounds. Is what was causing all the upheaval.
There's a disconnect there between what actually happens with the business and the family, right? We try to separate the personal things with the business to try to make the business work, but it just doesn't work, right? There's things
Right.
that are still going on at home and issues that aren't taken care of there. Yeah, 100%.
Right. And the other thing is just separating the business out of the family stuff, like setting aside time just for family.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't happening, and it's something that I guess was pretty hard on our relationship.
Would you say there was a lot of emotions that were tied up between those connections that weren't allowing you guys to go out and do the things you both wanted to do? Because you were pretty clear on some sort of directions you both wanted to go when you came in here, right? You were ready to start making some drastic changes, but there was a lot of things holding you back, right? A lot of emotions and not even permission to give you both the direction you wanted to go.
A lot of lack of confidence and just not knowing.
Lack of clarity. I think.
Yeah, not knowing where to go first.
Yeah, just because those conversations are uncomfortable, right? They're uncomfortable and they're not always easy to have. You've both been through that, but you see the light at the end there. You see what happens when you do walk through that, right?
Right. And just being on the same page as a couple, knowing that we're on the same team and communicating about where we're going and each step. We're not there yet, but we've definitely come a long way. Progress.
Yeah. So with that, let's start with you, James. But so what has been for you personally, the biggest change you've seen have happened for you since you've been inside Legacy Farmer?
I would have to say my confidence and just being able to do what I know needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like I know that I'm on the right path, and I know that when I know something needs to be done, I'll go and do it.
Yeah. How about for Mary Beth, you and Jim, how has this really brought you two closer together? You know, what has this done to your relationship? How do you feel like it's, you know, impacted both of you?
We'll be celebrating our 6th anniversary next week, and I think we've always had, I don't know, we've just always been best friends, but there was these conversations that we would always run up against, and we would circle around and around, and then a couple months later we would have them again, and we would never really resolve anything. And I think it was a trigger for him and a trigger for me, and we hadn't actually sorted out our feelings from facts and our emotions from the truth before we would have the conversations, and so we would never really get clarity or reach a solution. And I don't, in the end, we just didn't really move forward with anything. It wasn't a productive conversation most of the time. So I feel like just um, taking care of our emotions and what we actually believe, and then being brave enough to face the truth, and then talking about it together has really helped us in actually making progress when we do have communication about those same old things.
Because those past arguments, it was the same thing, right? It was the root issue that was never being addressed, right? It was, we don't want to go to that place or figure out that root issue, but this is giving you, you know, the space and the permission to figure that out, right?
Right. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've gained the confidence to actually face the facts and have those conversations.
Yeah. Just giving yourself permission for once to talk about the real truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. So
just face it, man.
Yeah. And knowing that you have the ability to figure that out, right?
Right.
So with you guys being in here, you know, with the different tools, you know, the network, the resources, you know, James, we've been on some hot seats. So for you guys, what would you say has been your fit for each of you? I'll take your turn, but for what's been your favorite thing inside Legacy Farmer?
That's a good question. I think honestly, it's kind of a toss up between the hot seats and having somebody to just help you face the reality of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ask you those questions that you're not willing to ask yourself. But then also just the trainings and learning the principles of the code and the core four and everything. It's just opened my eyes and helped me learn to know myself a lot better.
Yeah. How about for you, Mary Beth?
The most, I think I enjoy the trainings a lot. I feel like those have been the most impactful. But then I also enjoy sharing in Farm Wives Tribe. I just find it so interesting to listen in or get a sneak peek on what other farm wives are dealing with, or just the wins and the losses, and realize that it's just really a community. Because sometimes farm wives are few and far between, and you can't really relate to others that aren't. And so it's just been fun to see that the problems and the wins are so much the same for all of us.
Would you say that that Farm Wives group has that power and connection with it, because everyone is going through the same thing pretty much, right?
Yeah.
But it also gives you guys the place to actually have those conversations and understand with each other, you know, and to open up and to give each other's perspective on it, right? That just gives you a sense of being there.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so last question. If there was somebody who has been listening into Legacy Farmer for some time now, they've listened in on the Facebook ads, you know, they've been checking us out, what would you say to someone who would be sitting on the fence, who is sitting on the fence about joining Legacy Farmer?
You'll never regret it.
Why?
If you actually if you invest your time, it'll change your life in more ways than you can even imagine. And we're just getting started. So, but yeah, just having the confidence to go and do the things that need done. Relationships.
Yeah.
I guess just pretty much what we've already talked about.
Because I
It's
remember.
worth every dollar and every.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember when, James, I was on the phone with you, like that second phone call, right? We had 2 initial phone calls, right? And that first
Right.
call, you weren't quite ready at that time, but that second phone call, you're like, yeah, like here's, like, let's go. Like you were to that point, you were ready to go. And because of that too, both of your progress too has been dramatically significant because of that, right? You came into the mindset where you're like, we gotta change. We're ready to change, ready to move forward. And it showed. I mean, it's really showed in that time frame,
Yeah, and the one thing I would say about the investment is it'll keep you going when you probably wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times where I about had it and I just,
It's hard work.
yeah, it's hard work to get to know yourself. But just just trusting the process and knowing that it's not a easy fix. Like it's not supposed to be a quick fix.
100%.
Just help me keep going.
Yeah. And to know that you're not alone in any of this, right?
Right.
Everyone's trying to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, again, I thank you both for joining me here today, and I really appreciate it, you guys.